Chapter 1. The letter arrives in the snow. The snow fell in soft sheets across the rooftops of Vienna, muting the sounds of a city too tired to care. Evening came early in winter, swallowing the streets in a slate-grey gloom by 4 o'clock. Gaslights flickered along the boulevard, their yellow halos barely denting the dusk. Somewhere in the distance, a church bell struck once sharp, indifferent. Inside a modest apartment on the Mariahilfer Strasse, Detective Alaric Voss poured himself the last of a dark red Zinfandel. He didn't look like much of a detective anymore. The thick black coat that hung near the door hadn't seen service in months, and the revolver in his drawer lay untouched, half wrapped in a silk handkerchief. He had once been the pride of the city's criminal division, now just a name exiled to private inquiries and ghost stories. The knock came at precisely 5:12 p.m. Not the usual Tipa-hesitant tap, or the dull thump of a courier's fist. This was deliberate. 2 short raps, a pause, then one longer one. Voss stood, wineglass in hand, frowning. No one used that knock anymore. Not since 1936. He opened the door. A young woman, no older than 25, stood before him, wrapped in a green wool coat, her boots caked in half-melted snow. Her hands trembled not from the cold, but from something deeper. She held out an envelope. It was thick, sealed with black wax, bearing a crest he hadn't seen in years. A falcon clutching 3 roses. Noble family. Secretive. Dangerous. "Who gave you this?" he asked, voice hoarse. "They told me to bring it to you. They said you'd understand." Her voice was accented, local but educated. "I don't know what it means." He took the envelope. "You'd better come inside." She hesitated, then stepped into the warmth, glancing behind her as if something or someone might be watching. Voss slit the seal open with the edge of a letter opener that had belonged to his father. Inside was a single folded sheet, creamy and smooth. Ink in a hand he recognized instantly, even after all these years. "Alaric, there has been a murder at the Wintergarten estate. You know who I am, and why I write. The girl bringing you this letter, Elena Weiss, is to be kept under your protection, until I say otherwise. Burn this after reading." "Ah." Voss stared at the letter for a long moment. Then he reached for the fire. "Miss Roth," he said as the letter curled to ash, "do you know what the Wintergarten estate is?" She shook her head. "No. Should I?" He studied her carefully. Pale complexion, high cheekbones, eyes that had seen more than she let on. Not entirely honest, then, but afraid, genuinely afraid. "It's a private manor in the woods beyond Grinzing," he said. "Owned by one of the old families. Very quiet, very private. No newspapers, no police. When something happens there, it usually stays there." "I don't understand." Her voice cracked slightly. "Why me?" "That's what I intend to find out." The next morning, they took the train north. Elena sat opposite Voss in the first-class carriage, silent and stiff. Outside, snow dusted the countryside, drawing sharp contrasts against the leafless trees and icy meadows. "Tell me what you remember," he said finally, "before the letter, before you were sent to me." "I work in a bookshop in the city," she began. "Yesterday morning, a man came in. He was tall, older, well-dressed. He asked for a book we didn't carry, some obscure French novel I'd never heard of. Then he slipped me that envelope with a few shillings and said, 'Deliver this to Alaric Voss before sundown. Say nothing to anyone.' What did he look like?" "I don't know. Handsome maybe, but strange eyes, cold." Voss made a note. "He didn't say his name?" "No." "And you've never been to the Wintergarten estate?" "No." He believed her. At least most of her. The missing parts would surface eventually. By noon, they reached the town of Grinzing, then took a horse-drawn sleigh into the forest. The road narrowed, flanked by black fir trees like sentinels. Then, out of the snow and shadows, the manor emerged. Wintergarten. It was enormous Victorian stonework, steep gables, and shuttered windows that seemed to peer back at them. A spired tower loomed at the west end, topped with a rusting weather vane in the shape of a falcon. A man in a butler's uniform opened the door. He was tall, angular, and wordless. He led them to the drawing-room. There were 7 people waiting. 7 suspects. Voss looked over them, one by one. Dr. Emil Hartmann, the family physician, grey-haired, shifty-eyed. Brigitta Wintergarten, the matriarch, stern, silent, with a cane tipped in ivory. Conrad Wintergarten, the heir well-groomed, arrogant, with ink-stained hands. Liselott, the governess young, distant, eyes red from crying. Gregor Franz, the gamekeeper, broad, calloused, smelling faintly of gunpowder. Frederick Lang, the lawyer, nervous, chewing on his pipe even when unlit. Sebastian Riedel, the guest from Munichan academic, thin-lipped, aloof. And on the floor before the fireplace, covered with a silk sheet, lay the body. Who was the victim? Voss asked quietly. Lord Wilhelm Wintergarten, said Conrad. And what happened to him? He was poisoned, said Dr. Hartmann grimly. Sometime during dinner last night. None of us left the house. Voss looked at the fire, then at the girl beside him. The letter had said, "Keep her safe." But from whom? He glanced at each face again. Someone in this room was a murderer. Chapter 2. Dinner with the dead. The drawing-room smelled faintly of lilacs and lacquered wood. Outside, snow thickened along the window-panes, muffling the world. Inside, silence fell with a weight Voss could feel in his chest. No one moved. No one breathed too loudly. The corpse of Lord Wilhelm Wintergarten lay beneath the silk sheet, strangely regal in death. Voss turned to Dr. Hartmann. Who confirmed the cause of death? I did, the physician replied. He collapsed shortly after dessert chest pain, difficulty breathing, pupils dilated. Cyanosis was evident within minutes. I recognized the symptoms. Poison? Hartmann nodded. Likely aconitine, from the wolfsbane plant. Fast-acting, nearly undetectable after a few hours, unless you know exactly what to look for. And the body? Not yet moved. As per your instructions. Voss knelt, pulling back the sheet with a deliberate calm. Lord Wilhelm's eyes were shut, hands crossed over his chest. He looked peaceful. Too peaceful. Was there any chance of suicide? None, Hartmann replied. He was in good spirits. The poison was not self-administered. Voss replaced the sheet. Very well, he said. We begin with the dinner. The timeline. Voss and Elena sat in the formal dining room as the household gathered again, now under investigation. The long mahogany table stretched under a gold chandelier, its surface cleared, except for a single crystal decanter still standing at the head. Let's walk through last night, Voss began, his voice even, from aperitif to collapse. Brigitta Wintergarten, the widow, spoke first. We began dinner at precisely 7, she said, her voice low but composed. Wilhelm gave the toast, as he always did. The wine was Chateau Lafleur, 1,934. Conrad Wintergarten added, We all drank, nothing unusual. The courses followed roast duck, sautéed spinach, potatoes with mustard seed, and caramel pears for dessert. And when did the symptoms appear? Just after dessert, Liselott said, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. He stood to excuse himself. Then he clutched his chest and collapsed. Did anyone touch his glass or plate during dinner? Everyone looked at one another. No one answered. Voss tapped the table. Very well. Then I'll ask a different question. Who would benefit most from Lord Wilhelm's death? The silence was louder than before. 7 motives. 1. Brigitta, the widow, had inherited the estate's social prestige but little else. The financial holdings were tied to a trust until Wilhelm's death. 2. Conrad, the son, was impatient to take control of the family assets. His father had repeatedly denied him access to accounts or business decisions. 3. Dr. Hartmann, though seemingly loyal, had once been accused of negligence in a patient's death. Wilhelm was said to have threatened him with public disgrace. 4. Liselott, the governess, had been privately reprimanded days before. No one knew for what. But her eyes were swollen from weeping and not just from grief. 5. Gregor, the gamekeeper, was fiercely protective of the family's secrets. Some said Wilhelm had planned to dismiss him. 6. Frederick Lang, the lawyer, had recently argued with Wilhelm over changes to his will. He had reluctantly drafted Themiet claimed to disagree morally. 7. Sebastian Riedel, the guest, was quiet and aloof, but his presence wasn't accidental. He and Wilhelm had once been partners in an archaeological expedition gone horribly wrong. No one spoke of it. Each one had a motive, and each one had an alibi dinner table itself. The girl who wasn't there. Voss turned to Elena Roth. "You weren't at the dinner. Where were you?" She blinked. "At the train station, you know that." "Before that," he clarified. "Were you ever inside this house?" "No, but someone across the room coughed an awkward, nervous cough." Voss turned. "Something you'd like to share, Mr. Lang?" The lawyer dabbed his brow with a handkerchief. "It's probably nothing, but I saw Miss Roth here 3 nights ago." Elena's face went pale. "That's impossible," she whispered. "You were speaking with Lord Wilhelm in the garden, under the arbour, around midnight. I was walking back from the library wing. I saw you both." "I've never been here before," Elena insisted. "I swear to you." Lang shrugged. "Then I must be mistaken." But Voss knew the look in a man's eye when he wasn't mistaken and when he regretted saying anything at all. The wine glass. After dismissing the suspect, Voss examined the decanter still left on the table. Elena joined him in silence. The residue smelled faintly bitter not of grapes, but something else. He dipped a silver spoon into the contents and watched as the metal dulled. "Poisoned," he muttered. "Not in the food, in the wine." "Which means anyone could have done it," Elena said. "No," Voss replied. "It means someone poured only his glass from this bottle. The others must have had theirs poured from a different decanter, a clean one swapped after. Either way, Wilhelm's glass had been carefully selected. Murder, then. Not impulse. Premeditation. And there was one more thing. The falcon crest engraved into the bottle's neck. Voss narrowed his eyes. That symbol again. Just like on the letter. The letter's author. Back in his guest chamber, Voss stared at the remnants of the letter he had burned. But he knew the handwriting. There was only one person alive who wrote like that. Ah? Not for Roth, not for Riedel. For Rosalind Wintergarten Wilhelm's estranged sister, presumed dead for over 10 years. She had once been Voss's lover, and now she was somewhere out there possibly watching, possibly manipulating this entire game from the shadows. Closing the night. That evening, a storm rolled in. Winds howled through the trees. The manor creaked and groaned, like a ship bracing for ruin. Elena stood by the window, arms crossed. "You believe me, don't you?" Voss didn't answer right away. "I believe," he said finally, "that someone in this house is very good at hiding the truth. Whether that's you or someone using you. We'll find out soon enough." As the grandfather clock struck midnight, a scream echoed down the corridor. Another body had been found. Chapter 3. The second victim. The scream shattered the silence like a gunshot. Voss was out of his chair in an instant, coat flaring behind him as he moved swiftly down the corridor. Elena followed close, her footsteps barely audible against the old wooden floor. They reached the east wing within seconds. The source of the scream, a side chamber near the library. The door was ajar. Inside, Frederick Lang, the family's lawyer, lay slumped across a leather chaise, his face blue, his mouth twisted in silent agony. His glasses lay shattered on the floor beneath him. Dead. Dr. Hartmann arrived seconds later, breathless. Dear God! Voss was already checking the scene. No spilled drink, no broken glass, no weapon in sight. He turned to the governess, Liselotte, standing in the hallway, pale and trembling. "You found him?" She nodded. "I came to bring him a folder. He asked for it after dinner. Said he had something urgent to prepare for you." "What folder?" "This one." She held out a slim, leather-bound case. Voss took it carefully, snapping it open. Inside, a copy of Lord Wilhelm's last will, and testament and a second, unsigned version with different beneficiaries. altered wills. The differences were subtle, but telling. In the official will, the estate passed to Conrad Wintergarten, with stipends for Brigitta and Lieselot. In the unsigned draft, however, Elena Roth's name appeared granted guardianship over a private collection, as well as a discreet trust fund. Eleanor stared, stunned. "I've never seen this before." "Yet your name is here," Voss said quietly. "That makes this very interesting." Dr. Hartman leaned over his shoulder. "What's the date on that version?" "No date. No witness signatures. It was never made official." "Still," Hartman murmured. "It would be enough to give someone a motive." Voss agreed. If Lang had planned to deliver this to him tonight, someone might have intervened to stop it. Fatally. "The method. Was he poisoned too?" Elena asked. "No," Voss replied. "Different symptoms. No convulsions. No discoloration of the mouth or nails. This was likely cardiac arrest or suffocation." He checked the neck. No bruising, no marks. Then he noticed it barely visible between Lang's lips. A thread. Gloved, he pulled it gently. A piece of waxed twine. Rough. Almost surgical. Garroted. Not fast. Not quiet. Lang had likely seen his killer. Perhaps even known them. And they had looked him in the eyes as they took his breath away. 2 deaths. 2 messages. Now, there were 2 victims. And 2 very different methods. Wilhelm. Poisoned. Calculated. Quiet. Lang. Garroted. Personal. Brutal. "This isn't a serial killer," Elena said softly. "No," Voss agreed. "It's something worse." "What?" 2 killers. He turned toward the hallway. Or 1 killer sending 2 different messages. Interrogations. Voss wasted no time. He gathered the household again in the sitting room, firelight flickering behind him. "No one leaves this estate," he said. "There has been another murder." Gasps. Whispers. Brigitta clutched her cane tighter. Conrad's jaw tightened. Gregor Franz said nothing, arms folded across his chest. "I'll ask you again," Voss said. "Who saw Frederick Lang after dinner?" No one spoke. Then Lieselot stepped forward. "I saw him. He asked me for the file. I left him alone around 10, that's all." Voss turned to Sebastian Riedel, the scholar from Munich. "You've been quiet." "I've had nothing useful to say," Riedel replied. "I hardly knew the man." "Did you leave your room after dinner?" "I took a walk. The snow helps me think." "Can anyone verify that?" "No." Voss narrowed his eyes. "And you, Gregor?" The gamekeeper scowled. "I was checking the dogs. They've been restless since last night." "Strange," Voss said. "Because someone heard you arguing with Lang 2 days ago." Gregor's lips tightened. "He said he'd seen you selling the estate's hunting rifles. You denied it, loudly." Gregor didn't answer, which was its own kind of answer. A night visitor. That night, as the manor settled into a heavy, fearful silence, Voss sat in his room reviewing notes. The pieces didn't fit. Not yet. Then he heard Ita knock at the window. He rose slowly. Outside, through the swirling snow, stood a figure in a long coat and wide-brimmed hat. The shape was unmistakable, even in shadow. Rosalind. Alive. She raised a gloved hand, pressed a finger to her lips, then turned and vanished into the trees. Chapter 4. The Woman in the Woods. The snow had thickened overnight, softening the world into silence. But Voss was already out the door. Coat pulled tight against the cold, boots crunching across the icy ground as he followed the footprints into the trees. He hadn't seen her in over 10 years, not since the explosion in Bratislava, not since the day she vanished and was presumed dead. And yet he had no doubt. The figure at the window had been Rosalind Wintergarten. She had changed, older now, thinner, but her movements were unmistakable, precise, controlled, like someone used to vanishing without a trace. The tracks led away from the manor, and into the woods. Deeper, quieter. Then they ended suddenly, at the edge of a frozen stream. Gone. No drag marks, no prints returning, just silence. But Voss had played this game before. He scanned the tree line, then spotted an irregular break in the wall of frost-covered branches, almost imperceptible. He slipped through. The hidden hut. It took less than 10 minutes to find the shelter. An old hunting hut, long abandoned by the estate, now reclaimed by someone who knew how to live in silence. He opened the door without knocking. She was there, Rosalind, sitting by a cast-iron stove, a pistol on the table beside her, her eyes already on him. "You got slow?" she said without looking up. "You got dead," Voss replied. A thin smile touched her lips. "I didn't have the luxury." He stepped inside, closed the door behind him. "You sent me the letter." She nodded. "You said to protect the girl." Elena Roth. "Why?" "She doesn't know it yet," Rosalind said, "but she's a key to all of it. The murders, the will, the whole damned house." Voss frowned. "She's not even a Roth, is she?" Rosalind reached into her coat and pulled out a photograph. A woman dead now smiling in front of the Wintergarten gates. Identical to Elena. "She's my niece," Rosalind said. "Daughter of my sister, Wilhelm's bastard. A hidden inheritance. Elena's mother was sent away before she gave birth," Rosalind continued. "Wilhelm paid her off, buried the scandal, and swore it never happened. But the girl survived. And now someone wants her dead." Rosalind nodded. "Before she's legally named in the new will. Before the inheritance becomes real." Voss paced. "Lang knew. That's why he was killed." "And Wilhelm," Rosalind added. "He changed his mind at the last moment, regretted everything, wanted to bring her into the family. Too late." She said nothing. "Return to the manor." Voss returned to the manor just before dawn. He didn't tell Elena what he'd learned, not yet. She was still too shaken by Lang's death, by the stares from every room she entered. But everything had changed. She wasn't a courier. She was a target, an heir, a threat, and someone inside the manor was still watching her very, very closely. He spent the morning reviewing the guest list, the estate records, the wine inventory. One decanter was still missing, never recovered after the murder. He called for the staff. All of them. "No one leaves," he repeated. "Not until I have what I came for." Secrets in the tower. That afternoon, Lieselot approached him, trembling. "I need to show you something," she whispered. He followed her up the back stairs, through a narrow service corridor, to the old tower. Unused for years, the door groaned on its hinges. Inside, a small, locked chest beneath a window. She opened it. Inside lay letters, dozens of them, all written in Wilhelm's hand. Correspondence between him and Elena's mother. Proof of the child. The affair. The truth. Voss picked up a letter. "And you knew?" he asked. Lieselot's face crumpled. "I was her governess when she was little. I promised Rosalind I would protect her. But I was afraid, once the others found out." "You did the right thing," Voss said. "Even if it's late." But from the floor below came the sudden, sharp sound of shattering glass. The burned room. They rushed downstairs. The drawing room was ablaze, flames, licking the curtains, smoke curling up the wood-panelled walls. Gregor Franz was already inside, dragging buckets of water from the hall. Conrad arrived seconds later, coughing. "What happened?" Voss shouted. Conrad pointed. "We smelled smoke. The fire started in the cabinet by the fireplace. The same cabinet where Wilhelm had kept his private papers. Gone now. Ashes. A deliberate act. Someone was erasing evidence. A letter survives. But not all of it. Voss spotted a fragment near the hearth-burnt at the edges, but still legible. A signature. Rosalind Wintergarten. A single sentence. "If anything happens to me, the girl must be protected. She's not just my niece. She's—" The rest was gone. The shadow grows. That night, Voss locked Elena's door from the outside, posted a guard, then walked the halls himself, pistol in hand. The killer was close. Too close. Not just killing for inheritance. killing to bury the past. And the worst part? Rosalind might be next. If she hadn't already vanished again. He stood at the top of the staircase, watching the snow fall through the windows. In the distance, something moved just beyond the tree line. A glint of light, and the faint echo of another scream. Chapter 5. The Falcon Returns. The scream pierced the cold night like a knife through silk. Voss didn't hesitate. He bolted down the stairs, passing the butler who stood frozen in the foyer, white-faced and out the grand front doors into the snow. The wind howled, flinging flakes against his coat like needles. Somewhere beyond the gates the sound had come again softer now. Desperate. "Elena!" he shouted. No answer. He followed the faint trail of footprints, illuminated by the moonlight. They led past the stables beyond the garden hedgerows, toward the frozen pond. And then he saw her. Elena kneeling on the ice, cradling someone in her arms. Her face streaked with tears, her coat torn. Rosalind, bleeding. The return of the ghost. Voss dropped to his knees beside them. She was alive, barely. A deep gash on her left shoulder soaked through her wool coat. Her eyes fluttered open at the sound of his voice. "They found me," she whispered. "I tried to warn you." "Who?" he asked. "Who did this?" She struggled to speak. It was. Her eyes rolled back. She passed out. Voss wrapped his coat around her and lifted her gently. "Come on," he said to Elena. "Help me carry her." The house divided. Back at the manor, chaos reigned. Brigitta Wintergarten demanded answers. Conrad barked accusations. Hartmann insisted they call the police, but Voss shut them all down. "No one leaves. No one makes a call. This house is under lockdown until we finish this." He turned to Gregor, the gamekeeper. "Who else knew about the hunting hut?" "No one," Gregor said. "Not anymore. It's been abandoned since the war." Yet someone found her there. Gregor said nothing, but something in his silence made Voss pause. He'd noted it before Gregor's hands, rough with frost. Boots caked in snow. He'd been out recently, farther than the kennels. Voss filed it away. The hidden room. Rosalind was bandaged and unconscious, but alive. Voss gave Elena instructions. Watch over her. No one else was to come in. Then he returned to the library. Something had been bothering him for hours. The blueprints of the manor, retrieved earlier from Lang's case files, showed 33 rooms. But Voss had only found 32. He began tapping along the shelves, listening. Thinner, hollow sound. A false panel behind the south wall. He pried it open. Inside, a narrow stairwell, spiraling downward into the dark. He lit a candle and ascended. Beneath the manor, the stairs led to a stone cellar, not listed in any official documents. Dust thick on the ground. A single oil lamp flickered on a hook, and at the far end, a locked iron door. He picked the lock. Inside, an old study, untouched by time. A desk. Stacks of ledgers. And on the wall a painting of the Wintergarten crest, the falcon and the 3 roses. He approached the desk. Ledgers with coded entries. Names. Amounts. One stood out. S. Riedel. 60. 0. Blackmail, Voss muttered. Then another entry. E. Roth. Hold. His eyes narrowed. Not just inheritance. She was collateral. Unwelcome visitors. As Voss emerged from the cellar, someone was waiting for him in the hallway. Conrad. "You've been sneaking around," Conrad said, arms crossed. "Why?" "I might ask you the same," Voss replied, "especially after I found proof your father was being blackmailed." Conrad's face twitched. "I had nothing to do with that." "No? Then perhaps you can explain why your signature is next to a withdrawal of 60,000 francs the day after your father changed his will?" Conrad's jaw tightened. "You have no idea what this family has endured." "Enlighten me," Voss said. But Conrad just turned and walked away. The governess breaks. That evening, Lizelot appeared at Voss's door. "I need to tell you something," she whispered. He let her in. Tears welled in her eyes. It wasn't supposed to happen like this. Wilhelm promised me she would never come back. Elena. No. Rosalind. What do you mean? She was in love with him, but he betrayed her, banished her. And when she returned, he thought he could use Elena as a way to make amends. So you helped him? She nodded slowly. Until he died. After that, I didn't know what to believe. Then help me now, Voss said. Her voice trembled. Lang wasn't killed in the library. Voss stared. What? He died in his room. Someone moved the body. Another lie? Another truth. Back in Lang's room, Voss found the final clue, a thread of surgical wax cord tucked behind the headboard, placed there on purpose. Whoever had killed Lang had staged the scene, framed the setting, and that meant someone knew how to manipulate everything, including him. He returned to Elena's room, heart pounding. Rosalind was awake. She looked at him with hollow eyes. It's not just the inheritance, she whispered. It's about the secret Wilhelm was hiding, about what the estate was built on. And what's that? She took a breath. Blood money, she said. Stolen artifacts. War crimes. Voss froze. And now, someone's killing to make sure none of it ever sees daylight.